Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Steve and Margo Burrows, who are sharing their unforgettable story behind the HBO documentary Bleed Out. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm telling you, you need to take the time to watch it. It's available on HBO, Hulu, Apple TV, Amazon Prime. And for those of you watching in Canada where it's a little bit tricky to find, it's on our website, connectmlx.com, on the podcast page. To recap part 1, Bleed Out begins with a fall and a routine hip replacement for Steve's mom, Judy Burrows. This quickly spiraled into a tragedy, leaving her into a coma with permanent brain damage. But this documentary not only tells the story of this family's ordeal, it is a raw, eye-opening investigation into healthcare, with powerful footage that brings the reality of medical error to life for all of us. Judy fought to survive for nearly a decade. She's gone now, but her legacy lives on. And this part of the podcast is going to focus exactly how that happened. Today, you'll hear how Judy's story and Steve's relentless search for the truth and answers have sparked a movement for safer healthcare, keeping her voice alive and inspiring change. So let's dive in. Welcome back, Steve and Margo.
Hi, great to be back. Thank you.
So very happy to have you here. Let's, as I said, we told the story in part 1, or as much as we could of the story, but again, everybody take some time and watch that documentary because we couldn't even touch some of the important details with the time that we had. But I'd like to talk now, let's move past the incident and talk about some of the most surprising, unintended, most important things in your mind that have come out of telling Judy's story to the world through your film Bleed Out.
Well, we had this, we caught a break in the middle of the 10-year siege. A friend of mine introduced me to a couple producers who've worked with HBO. And they suggested that I cut together, they said, do you have any footage? And I said, I've got 400 hours of footage because I've been filming for the lawyers. And they're like, oh my God, well, why don't you cut together a little 6-7 minute, they call it a sizzle reel, little, almost like a trailer for the movie, but the movie didn't exist. It was just a hope and a dream at this point. And it took me a full year to cut this little 6-minute thing together. Like they kept saying, if you could show Steven Spielberg your mom's story in 5 to 6 minutes, what would it be? And I kept thinking, okay, so I cut it all down. And they got me a meeting with the head of HBO documentary films. Her name's Nancy Abraham. And we had worked out this pitch, a verbal pitch of like a half hour, and then show her the thing. And something told me to go in there, keep my mouth shut for the first time, and just show her this thing. And she watched it, and she's screaming at the TV, and she's laughing, and she's crying. And at the end of this little 6-minute piece, she said, we want to do it. I want to make this movie with you. And she said, does anybody know you're doing this? I go, no. She goes, keep it that way. So I had to keep this quiet for 4 years.
Well, that was hard on him.
We hadn't even been, our trial hadn't happened yet. We had we didn't have a verdict in this thing. Normally, someone like HBO would not sign up for a project where they didn't know the ending. But she said, this is so egregious. Let's go get him and tell the truth. That's all you got to do. Tell your story, tell the truth, make it as entertaining as possible, and we'll be there for you. So we quietly made this film with HBO. They legally vetted.
Can I just do a side there? We're as proud of the legal vetting of this film as we are of the film, because HBO literally had us go through it frame by frame. It took a year to fully vet.
Yeah. Before
they'd air it. So we're really, really proud that everything in there has been fully vetted. So
yeah, at the end of the year, they changed virtually nothing. So that's the beauty of telling the truth, and we could back it up with all the, the decade of all the documents we had. But we had, I will tell you, I had zero expectation for this film. I never really thought it was ever going to come out, even though they told me it was. I kept waiting for the shoe to drop because of the previous 10 years. I'm like, something's going to go wrong. but I made this movie for my mother, and I kept it simple, just tell a good story, and hopefully something good will happen from it. But we had no idea what was coming. The day that it came out, I checked my Facebook page for, the private messenger thing, and there was 2,500 messages from people I did not know. And I started scrolling through these things. And I said, Margo, we tapped into something, because it was basically, we were hearing from patients, their families. It was, the same story that we were telling. And they thought they were all alone. And all of a sudden we pop up on HBO and they realize that we're not alone. And then we started hearing from doctors and nurses saying, yes, thank you for telling this story. We need this type of story out there so we can turn this ship around and go away from delay, deny, and defend into, accountability and transparency and honesty and apology, because that works. And then, we had, like I said, we had no expectations, but then we kind of knew that the public would probably respond to this. And the press, we were very lucky. We saw the power of HBO. We were so fortunate because HBO just gave us like their 100 million subscriber platform. All of a sudden, we went from not existing on Earth to we're an HBO movie that has now been seen by 20 million people.
New York Times critic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were so lucky with the press, like within the first 24 hours. New York Times. We did so many TV shows, and people were responding to the film. I think because of my mother, to be honest, because they saw their mother in my mother, or they saw their loved one in our family, in our struggle. And then this is what I'm leading up to, is that then something extraordinary occurred, because I remember going through the legal vetting with HBO and the lawyers, and I said, boy, they really thought that we had something special. But I said, boy, I think the medical community, they're going to hate my guts. They are going to hate me. And I'm a comedy guy. I want to be loved. I don't want people to hate me. So I wasn't really concerned about it, but I just told the HBO lawyers, I think that there's going to be a group of people out there that are going to be very offensive, and there's going to be some backlash. And they said, hey, don't worry about it. We did our legal vetting. We're all good. You told your story. Whatever happens, happens. And here's what happened. We started getting calls from medical schools and nursing schools and universities asking us to show our film at their universities, medical schools, nursing schools, to their young medical students and nursing students, and to their staff and to their faculty. And I actually thought at the first few, I thought, I'm not trusting this. Is this a trick? And there was this doctor, his name's Dr. David P. Mayer, and he runs this thing called the Academy for Emerging Leaders in Patient Safety. And it's this boot camp that happens 3 times a year, where he has the best of these young medical doctors, nurses, practitioners, pharmacists. They all come to this boot camp for a week. And this all-star faculty team teaches them how to do the right thing, because something's going to go wrong in their career. Like, we're all human.
Everybody's going to make a mistake.
Everyone's going to make a mistake. It's how you handle that mistake. It's how the culture of that hospital handles that mistake. And Dr. Mayer always says, he has this great quote. He says, we need to educate the young, regulate the middle, and hope the old folks retire from their old ways. And because that's the way it's going to get done. Because a lot of these, like Dr. Bauer in our movie, he had his way.
Doctor was always right.
Doctor's always right. Doctors are God, blah, 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 blah. So he invites us to this screening in Turk Valley, Maryland. And there's 150 of these young students. And what they did is they teach them all week. They hear all these lectures from all different points of view, professors of different specialties.
Well, it's very interactive.
Yeah, very interactive.
Not just
No, but it's a boot camp.
Yeah.
But then he said, we're going to show your movie at the very end to kind of tie it all together. And I rarely get nervous. It's just not something, the old showbiz guy. I mean, I just don't get, too worried about things. But I was definitely sweating bullets because this was the first time it was all doctors, all nurses, all hospital people. Oh, by the way, lawyers as well, plaintiff lawyers, defensive lawyers, risk managers. This was my worst nightmare. Risk managers, no, they're going to hate me. And Dr. Mayer said, no, just watch. And they watched the film. And they all, it's a very reactive film. People, it's one of those films that people just can't help but be screaming at, during but I was nervous the whole time, and I'm sitting next to Margo, and I'm like, I don't know. And the movie ended, and there was dead silence. And I thought, oh my God, we just bombed. And then there was literally like a 5-minute standing ovation. And that is the moment I knew that the film, for whatever reason, and I will give my mother full credit for this, the film was cutting through. It was nonpartisan. It was non-political. It was certainly our point of view, but we were fair, and we're all patients. Our families are patients. And I just think there was something about the way that my mother allowed me to film her over 10 years. She was so open and so brave. And so, as people will see in the film, she fought until the day she died. And she wanted this story told. She allowed herself to be shown in the worst possible way. And I would say, Mom, are you sure we want to do this? And she said, got to tell the story. And for some reason, I get credit for it, but I can't take credit for it. It was really my mother who she taught me to be brave, to make this story. And I couldn't have made it without her giving me the green light to do it. And something about my mother, like at the end of every screening we've had hundreds of them now with the press and the public, with the ones that are dear to us are it's the medical community that has stepped up and embraced this movie. And that is the biggest surprise, because now the ripple effect that Margo talked about, the destructive ripple effect of, losing our house, losing our friends, losing our money, and becoming ill, and, almost losing each other. And now this ripple effect with the film, it's completely different. It's like, my mom's story is, for whatever reason, I can't even articulate why.
I think she's everybody's mother or everybody's family member, you feel.
Yeah, and the medical people are going, that should have never happened. They're not defensive about it. They're angry about it. They're like, instead of being, well, this is anti-doctors, anti-nurses, they don't see it that way. They go, this is pro-doctors, it's pro-nurses, it's pro-hospital, it's pro-honesty.
It's pro-good medicine.
It's pro-good medicine. And we can do better. And the first thing that happens after, the movie is we can start getting apologies they feel so bad. Not only that we never got an apology from the original defendants, or the hospital, but they personally feel it. They're like, I'm so sorry. Please, and I think one of the nicest things I've ever heard was this past summer, we went to one of the boot camps, and there was this young Mayo Clinic oncologist. He looked like he was 14 years old. I mean, this kid was, I say kid, he's a doctor, but he's up, he was, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to try to say it the best I can. He goes, watching your mom's story and getting to know your mom has forever changed the way I'm going to practice medicine. And I told him, that makes the whole 15 years worth it, what you just said. In one sentence, that young cancer doctor nailed it for me. And that was, and he's going back to wherever he's going to, and he said, I'm going to have a picture of Judy at my desk, and every day I'm just going to look at her to know I gotta stay true to why I became a doctor in the first place. And that was certainly one of the most profound moments in my life. But that was it for me, for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It was lovely what you said. I want to give a little credit to you two, though. I mean, Judy is a huge part of the story, but it took the two of you to have the tenacity and the courage to tell it and film it and get your little spy cam, which is still so impressive to me, that spy cam, the spy pen. But I think it's not that just Judy is everybody's mom. I think you two are everybody's cousin, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. You're, as you know, you come across to as the people that you know and love and family members. So the whole story is real and believable and relatable. And as a healthcare provider, I've been a nurse for a long time, and that was my overwhelming thought too. Thank you for saying this, because I'll tell you, we all know that this kind of stuff goes on in healthcare. We all know it, and we can't all talk about it. And, for reasons like I talked about in the last podcast, even though morally and ethically we would like to, we're sometimes silenced by powers and forces that we feel are bigger than us in the moment. Anyway, thank you. That was beautifully said, Steve. So I have two kind of questions. Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something?
It took us 10 years to get to that verdict, and the film, definitely ends with the verdict. And I would say that in out of respect for my mother, I would say, watch the film, and I would love people to have the reaction, however they want to react. It tends to be the same reaction generally when people see it. And I hope I'm not giving anything away, but
You kind of are.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
No, he's not. That's good. Let's just say watch the film. I think that's a perfect answer.
We made it for, I made it for my mother, but now it's become, somehow the movie it's no longer our movie. It's become a part of, I don't know, American healthcare. And that was, and we can share with you some of the other good things down the road here of what's happened with the film as well, too. I would say, watch the movie, please.
Okay, done. I think that's a great answer to that question. So the other thing you brought up, you were concerned about repercussions and people going to hate you. I was so interested at the end of the movie to find out if there was any negative fallout or pushback, specifically from Aurora. And I'm not sure if they're a healthcare company, insurance company, or a combination of both, but they played a big part in the movie. Was there any pushback from them at the end of the story?
Strangely, I mean, not really. There was we kept the movie quiet. HBO told me to keep my mouth shut for 4 years, so I did. And then 2 weeks before the movie came out, HBO released a 1-minute trailer. And I was ever so slightly, I don't want to say offended, but I was a little heartbroken that they didn't ask me to help edit that 1-minute trailer, because I edited the whole movie. So, but they said, we know what we're doing. We know how to sell these things. And I saw their 1-minute trailer, and boy, oh boy, I'm glad I stood down, because they really cut together, even to this day, this trailer it works. I don't know how they did it. So the trailer comes out. So all of a sudden we've gone from,
Nobody knowing.
and this is several years after the verdict. So, the trial's done. My mom is, really in very, very bad shape at this point. And the trailer is introduced to the world and the HBO platform, and all of a sudden it's out there, and people are very interested in what's going on, especially Aurora and their defendant doctors. And we started getting calls on my cell phone from the defendant's attorneys, and they were pretty pissed off, because if you watch the trailer, they don't mention Judy, they don't mention Aurora. It's just kind of a general thing, but the people involved,
What was it one said? I sure hope you did not dare to use any image or use my doctor's name in your film, or else there will be trouble. And it was like,
yeah.
Well.
Let's see. Did we use names? Yes. Did we use their images? Yes. Did we go undercover with spy pens? Yes. Did we use their on-camera under oath testimony? Yes. So we started getting scared because we were getting threats from some of these attorneys that I knew, by the way, very well from all these years of litigation. And all of a sudden, and they were always kind to me during the process, but now they're like being very aggressive about they're going to come after Steve and Margo if there's any wrongdoing with this alleged film. And this is before the film came out. And we called HBO and said, we're getting threats.
And we were scared.
Yeah,
I mean, I'll admit it.
Oh yeah, it's just Steve and Margo. And HBO had assured us we're going to be cool. Everything's fine. And the head lawyer said, don't worry about it. We do this all the time. We've done our due diligence. The legal vetting is done. They actually predicted anywhere from 12 to 15 lawsuits when this film came out. But they said, and we go, what?
They'd all be without merit.
Yeah, they would be frivolous because it would just open up another can of worms, and they'd have to defend what was in the film, and they can't. So don't worry about that. But I was like, 12 to 15 lawsuits and nasty calls. And then right the day before the film came out, Aurora had hired some hotshot New York lawyer to threaten HBO and Steve and Margo, but essentially, because they're $1 billion company, we're a little less than $1 billion. And they demanded that, and by the way, this is one of my favorite moments of my entire life.
They demanded to see the film in advance so they could vet it and see if they had any problems with it.
Right. Otherwise, they would do a cease and desist and all this stuff, and they were threatening lawsuits, et cetera, et cetera. And it was a very scary letter to get. It was like, oh my God, I guess we thought maybe HBO would actually, cave, give them the film, or, I mean, our thing was you had 7 years at trial to do the right thing. I mean, now we're going to tell our story. But I thought maybe HBO just doesn't, maybe they'll turn it over, or maybe they won't screen the film after all, because this was a very scary letter. And HBO said, no, don't worry about it. We're going to write it back. And the letter they wrote back to Aurora and the lawyer, the hotshot lawyer in New York, was very simple. It just said, Dear Aurora, got your letter. Thank you very much for your interest in Bleed Out. It is not our policy to release films prior to their airing debut. But if you'd like to watch the film, it happens to air tomorrow at 8:00 on HBO. And you're gonna need an HBO subscription, which is going to cost you $8.99 or whatever. And let us know what you think.
I love that.
And I think I can share this. So we were told, because you asked about HBO's reaction. I'm sorry, Aurora's reaction to it, and we kept waiting for the fallout. We kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and we kept waiting for the 12 lawsuits and the 15 lawsuits and whatever. You want to take a guess on how many times we've been sued since this film came out?
3, 5.
5? That's a good guess. 0.
I'm so happy for that.
Me too.
That is the beauty of telling the truth and backup and doing the right thing. Because I definitely was concerned about the lawsuit factor. But we've been out now over 5 years, and not one lawsuit.
And not one reached out from any of the providers involved either.
We don't really know what happened behind closed doors. We do know that there was a big meeting with all of the parties after this film came out. I have some friends who, I have a lot of friends who work for Aurora.
With all the defense parties.
Well, yes.
Yeah, not our party.
No. Yeah, with all the Aurora people trying to figure out how do we stop this film, or how do we respond or whatever. And an inside person over there told me that they worked on this. They worked for several weeks on trying to break down every single aspect of this movie legally to go after HBO to at least stop it or get it off the air or whatever. And they couldn't do it. They could not break it. And in the end, they just decided there's nothing we can do. And if,
let's be quiet.
Yeah,
hope it goes away quick.
And exactly. They thought it'll go away like all documentaries go away in six months or so. And our trajectory with HBO continues. I mean, we've been on HBO now for a total of 6 years. And it's out there forever. So, but yeah, any other Aurora backlash? None, really.
No.
No. Well,
Amazing.
I will say this. I don't make this public too often, but what the hell? The CEO, Aurora got bought by a company called Advocate. So then it's become Advocate Aurora, right? They merged. And the new guy, who had nothing to do with our story, he and I met several times, and he knew that he was doing some damage control here, trying to turn. He said, I think, this a couple years ago, he said, I think that if you and I come together, we could do some wonderful things at patient safety. He called it patient safety on steroids. And I was intrigued, and I talked to my patient safety friends. I said, I got the CEO of Advocate Aurora telling me he wants to work together to save lives. And they said, that is very rare and sounds like a very unique situation. Be careful. And I go, oh, yeah, I know the guy seems legitimate to me or whatever. And I'll make this short. In the end, Advocate Aurora sent me a contract to be a partner with them in patient safety, but it was a one-page contract. And our attorneys looked at it and said, this is one of the most egregious contracts I've ever seen. Basically, it was saying, dear Steve, we want you to partner on with patient safety. Once you sign this, we will control bleed out in perpetuity, and we can edit it or re-edit it however we want. And you're our employee, and you work for us, and you'll do what we tell you to do. And they offered me a sum of money. It was basically, I guess, hush money in some ways, a gag clause type of situation. You want to guess how much they offered me?
Let's hear it.
No guess.
$2 million.
I love that guess. $15,000.
Oh, come on. That's the shadiest deal ever made in the history of the world.
Our friend Marty Hatley, who is a patient safety warrior, who is also a lawyer, and he looked at it and he goes, this is so egregious. He said, I can't believe he said, this is outrageous.
It's insulting.
I don't talk about this often, but maybe I should, because I loved your reaction to it. And because really, there's a reason I can't talk about it. We ended up, my answer.
We didn't sign it.
Good. Yay.
I wrote him back. I said, his name was Jim Skogsberg. He, by the way, is gone because now another company called Atrium has now swallowed up Advocate Aurora, and now it's called Atrium or whatever. It's gone from 30 hospitals to 50 to now 100 and whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's bigger and bigger. But I wrote Mr. Skogsberg back, and I said, Jim, that I'm not going to sign away my mom's story for $15,000, but I will become your partner for free.
To get our story out.
Yeah, to get the story out there, I'll
teach and educate.
I'll agree to a handshake, and you and I can get up on a stage anywhere you want to do, and we'll talk about this, and you can talk about all the wonderful things that Advocate Aurora has done in lieu of the movie, which they've done nothing, of course, but we never heard from them. So, but yeah, they tried to buy me off for $15,000.
That's just so shitty. Pardon my language. I shouldn't say that probably in a podcast, but that's insulting, honestly.
Thanks for the $2 million guess.
I would hope for $2 million, especially if this was a few years ago. I mean, you'd be okay. Well, the impact of bleed out, I think, is what I'd like to talk a little bit about next. And I think it's been nothing short. You've hinted on it a couple times and how it's taken on a life of its own, but I think it's been nothing short of transformative in both the medical and legislative landscapes. Do you guys mind if I run through a couple of highlights that I've taken, that I've found? And I'll talk, but then I'd also like to hear, there's probably more important and more personal moments to you, or there may be, than what I'm going to read, but I'd like to just read quickly a couple of paragraphs about the magic of this movie. After the film's release, the Wisconsin State Medical Examiner's Office took the very unusual step of reevaluating Judy Burrows' case, ultimately changing the cause of her death from natural causes to accidental related to medical error. Inspired by Judy's story, Wisconsin lawmakers introduced several new bills to improve patient safety, including one called Judy's Law. These bills are now setting a precedent for other states, including the groundbreaking Black Box Bill, which mandates recording devices in operating rooms for added transparency and accountability. In response to the overwhelming support from the healthcare community, the Patient Safety Movement Foundation created the annual Judy Burrows Humanitarian Award for Excellence in Patient Safety, with Judy's son Steve as the inaugural honoree. Congratulations. I'm going to tear up now, joining the ranks of past awardees such as Presidents Joe Biden and Barack Obama. In another significant and powerful tribute, the Leapfrog Group, a major healthcare watchdog, named its new National School for Patient Safety the Judy Burrows Education Institute. It's located just blocks from the White House. This institute launched in 2022 and now serves as a hub for advancing patient safety practices nationwide. In addition to these honors, Steve has joined the Patients for Patient Safety US, PFPS-US, as a co-founder. The network of patient safety advocates aligned with the WHO unites patients, policymakers, and healthcare organizations in a mission to make American healthcare safer and more accountable for all. That's some big stuff. That's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you. We didn't, like I said earlier in the first episode, we didn't even know patient safety was a thing until the film came out. Even as we're making the film in those later years during the 10-year, siege part.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And how horrible is that, we were involved in, we were doing all this and we had no idea that patient safety was anything, was a thing. And why is that? That's horrible because this has been going on, forever, but there's been a huge movement. And why didn't we know about it? I still find that shocking.
Well, and it's still, this is there's so many causes out there and they're all worthy. Everyone's fighting for, funds and eyeballs and attention. It's a sensory overload world. And how do you get attention on a topic that, I don't want to talk about doctors who are doing wrong or nurses who are making mistakes. I mean, it's not the most pleasant conversation because we all want to believe that doctors and nurses are heroes, and they are. It was Dr. Mayer said this. No, it was Marty Hadley who said this. He said that the first harm in a medical error, whatever it is, the first harm is never intentional. It's that second, that third, that fourth harm. In our case, the lying, the falsification of records, the delaying, denying, those are intentional. And that's where it crosses the line. And I really believe he's correct there. That first thing that happened to my mom, I don't believe that Dr. Bauer or those other doctors went in there that day and wanted to hurt my mother. At some point, though, and we all know where that moment of truth is, which way are you going to go? Like a third grader knows right from wrong. And I can only speak for myself, but as bad as that was, what happened to my mother, watching doctors lying under oath, watching my own uncle, the doctor, lie under oath, watching attorneys for those doctors, somehow during this thing, they tried to blame me for this surgery. Why did you let your mom have this surgery? Like somehow, it was my responsibility. It was my fault that she went in there on Plavix or whatever. That type of stuff is so poisonous and so toxic. And I can say this without any equivocation. That's the stuff that stays with me. It wasn't just leaving my mom to die in an ICU with no doctors. That was horrible. But to cover it and to lie right to our faces, that was so bad. It's the worst thing other than like literally like 9/11. It's the worst thing I've seen in my lifetime was watching these good people that I know these are not evil human beings. These are not like Machiavellian doctors who are, we're going to screw with Judy Burrows today. No, it's just when it happened, the situation they were in, the culture they were in, whatever happened, they decided they were going to try to get away with it. They're going to try to cover it. And that is intentional harm that I still definitely suffer from. And I can guarantee you, I can speak for so many others in our situation that's the thing. That's the thing that kills us is just tell us what happened. Just sit us down and be honest. We're not going to like it, but boy, we're going to respect it. But when you start lying to us and when you start doing all the things that you do to make it so difficult, like who can go to trial for 7 years? Who can do that? Nobody. And if you do, prepare yourself because you're in for a bumpy ride and you're probably going to lose. Based on the numbers are 90% chance you're going to lose. I don't know what my ultimate point was other than, the lying stuff is the stuff that gets me.
I think I know what your ultimate point is because you know what, as you've been talking, I've just been writing on a little scribble of paper here. And the two phrases I've heard consistently through both podcasts is do the right thing and tell the truth. You've said those two things several times. And I think maybe that's your ultimate point. That's your message to all of us.
I think you're right. And try to sift through all the other patients and families that we met over the past several years, and there've been thousands of them. I think that's what they want as well.
Yeah.
Because that's ultimately how you fix everything. Stuff's going to happen, but boy, how do you react to it? What are you going to do about it? I would bet that the vast majority of these situations go away with an apology and an explanation and accountability on just taking care of the patient and the family and whatever happens. They're not going to call a lawyer. I mean, some will call a lawyer.
Sure.
And thank God there are attorneys out there on both sides, because there's going to be situations where
you need a court to decide.
You do.
Because sometimes it is close. I would probably say a lot of patients do feel like there was medical error when maybe there wasn't. There was an outcome that wasn't expected necessarily, but it wasn't an error that it happened. And, it is hard to accept when something horrible happens in a family, to a family member or to yourself.
And the importance of, attorneys, I have to say, they, a lot of them get a bad rap, but, when they're just doing their job, and I have to say, I've never said this before, but I'm going to say it. I sat there through our trial and through the entire deposition process, watching the defendant's lawyers. And as I told you, they were the best lawyers in the state. And I kept going, man, I wish, I hate what this guy's doing, but I sure wish he was my lawyer, because they did a heck of a job defending.
They can be brutal.
Yeah, but they did a heck of a job defending their clients.
Yeah.
I would say it to their face. I would go,
Well, that's the difference between getting paid and going on contingency.
That's true. That is true. You want to work for free for 7 years, or you want to get paid $1,000 an hour? You're probably going to, the $1,000 an hour guys are going to probably be a little more. Anyway.
Those are all great observations. And I appreciate how generous you are seeing the upsides and downsides of all sides of this story and the people involved in it. I think that's important, because you're right. If we all needed a good defense lawyer, you want a lawyer who's going to go for it, right? Well, our time is just starting to run out. I know you guys didn't have all day for this, but I have just a couple more questions. First up, what's you're in an interesting place in your life right now. What's next?
Well, after this, we might go out and sit in the sun and get a little bit of a tan and maybe jump in the pool. But which has been very helpful to me. Just quiet. I've never had it before. she grew up on a farm and she understands that. And she's been trying to teach me this for 35 years. Just enjoy, like, take a deep breath, literally go, smell a rose, smell a cactus, go try to, dodge a wild burrow and all these crazy critters we got out here. But for me, I am now back on the horse and running, not walking, but running back to show business and comedy. I have 2 scripts, 2 features.
Well, not just comedy.
No, that's true.
I know.
Yeah, I've got a comedy. I've written a screenplay, a brand new screenplay that's a comedy that I look forward to directing, hopefully. I've written my first screenplay drama as well. And I've also...
That's it. That is in the patient safety.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, it's based on
yeah.
It's based on a story, not our story, but a much bigger story. And I've been looking for a way to, like, how do I marry my skills, my filmmaking life and storytelling into, like, and one thing I've learned through the patient safety movement, there's all these stories, and people kept saying, well, tell my story, or my story deserves a movie, and they do, but how do I do that? And I think the way to do it is through a television series. So I'm developing a television series.
From all angles, not just patients, but from doctors, from the lawyers, from, insurance company, from,
everything.
As you know, there's a ton of different players involved in all of this. So
in this way, you could dive into each episode could be from a different point of view. I even told somebody the other day in the patient safety movement, they said, well, what would an episode be? I said, well, I'd like to do an episode on defense attorneys. And they're like, what? Why would you do that? I said, because I think it's pretty interesting. They're human beings too. They've got to do what they got to do. Risk managers, hospital systems, CEOs,
and the patients,
and also patients and their families. I think I feel like this is a treasure trove of stories that are real and poignant and visceral, fascinating and entertaining and infuriating and hopeful. We can get everything in there. We can get the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the great, the inspiring, and you don't have to cram it all in one movie. I've thought about doing another movie, and it's like the movie I would want to do is get all that stuff into one movie, but then you're just going boom, boom, boom. I want to take some time and develop each aspect, and that's really where I'm at. I'm a TV show, 2 movies, and trying to dodge wild burrows.
Good luck to you with that, Steve. How about you, Margo? What's next for you?
I have found I really do enjoy working very closely with Steve. Now, I think after all the years apart that we, I don't think, well, I know, I'm going to speak for myself. I don't want to have that separation again like we did.
No.
And I enjoy producing. I do. And I enjoy, like, helping him develop some of these ideas, because he comes at it from a very specific point of view, and I have a different point of view. And then when you marry him, I think everything just gets better. So I'm going to keep doing that, producing.
Yeah. I don't think she's even realized this. She is I've worked with a lot of producers over the years on a lot of different levels. She is a phenomenal producer. That job sucks. It's like, there's a reason, like when the Academy Award for Best Picture, they announce the Best Picture and they say, okay, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And the person that comes up for that is the producer of the film. A lot of people think it's the director. It's the producer, because the producer is the first one on the project generally and the last one off. And the one that has to deal with all the crap along the way. And your temperament is so, like, she's so even keeled and I'm so up and down, and she's just like, she's what's the word? You've got this effortless thing going where it's just like you're what's the word? You're
unflappable. I could see it.
Unflappable. That's it. The unflappable Margo.
Well, congratulations to both of you and good luck with all you've got going on. Keep us posted when that TV show gets out. I'm already dying to watch it and anxious to see what happens. And again, I just want to say I appreciate you coming at it from all angles. It's really easy to pick an enemy and attack. And that's certainly one of my goals always with this podcast is we're all just doing a job and we're all just doing what we hope is the best in the time with the information that we've got or whatever's going on. But there's a lot of sides to every story, and it's a gift to be able to hold those two opposing sides in your head, to not choose a bad guy and a good guy. It is a gift to hold two opposing ideas in your head.
Yeah, thank you for saying all of that. So eloquent. I would just add to that is for some reason in our situation, things became adversarial instantly. And it was not us, right? It was they stopped talking to us. It was us versus them. And I can tell you, and this is what I would say to your entire audience of doctors, nurses, attorneys, patients, all the people. That adversarial thing, it does not work. That is not how it's going to get done. If we all sat down at a table all those years ago, we could have worked it out within a day. And what you just said about the enemies thing, the conflict, it just.
And that's how it was at first. Definitely. I mean, because of their reaction mostly. We didn't hate them immediately. We were still trying to find out what was wrong. But when they turned their back on us, that then made them our enemies, at that time. And I wish it hadn't happened like that. I truly do, because who knows where we would have been at that point now.
Yeah. So. Earlier this year, we did something with Leilani at a group of, it was a conference for risk managers. And I said to the woman who invited us, I said, have you seen the movie? Are you sure you want me there? And she said, yeah. And I said, look, I'm happy to go anywhere and show this film to anyway, as long as it helps the cause, which is for all of us. And that experience with listening to the risk manager's point of view I'm like, this is an episode of this TV show. Might even be a movie. Really? It was something else. I'm like, wow, you know what? I just went through a 10-year thing and I never thought about any of this stuff. And I think that the audience will agree. And that's my goal is to tell all of the different stories out there in the medical industrial complex as we all navigate the waters of treachery.
Now we just have to find somebody to buy that idea so we can actually do it.
Margo?
Margo. Yeah, I think that's your job, Margo.
That sounds like a producer thing, Margo. What do you to make that happen right now?
Chris, thank you so much for caring about all this so deeply and for what you're doing, because the only way any of this is going to change is through shedding light on it, and you're doing a fantastic job at that. So thank you.
Yeah, you've dedicated yourself to this this difficult subject. And, I've listened to many of your shows and you're cutting through. It's hard to cut through.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much white noise out there. And anyway, thank you for this opportunity to tell our story and thanks for doing your thing.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else either of you would like to say before we close?
Yeah, there is one thing that we didn't bring up that I think that in the end, I think this whole thing, in my opinion, comes down to accountability, but also trust. The one thing that you can't have in medicine, and good medicine, is the lack of trust. You've got to be able to trust your doctor, your nurse. And that's why that telling the truth is so important and not lying is so important, because it destroys. And I mean, how can you have good healthcare without trust? And I think in the end, that might be the main thing of our movie, is if I planned it that way. But, after all these years, when I watch the film with people, I go, oh, I think I made a movie about trust. You could have called it Trust, but Bleed Out, I think, was a better title.
It's got more splash. I mean, more pizzazz, but that's a really good point. Like, do the right thing, tell the truth, and build the trust. There's so much more to healthcare than the healthcare, isn't it? Like the personal relationships are critical.
Yeah, our friends in Scotland screened the film, and they have this saying. Their version of "do the right thing" is "let right be done." Yeah, yeah, I thought I like that. That's good.
It is good. Well, listen, thank you so much, you two. This has been an amazing conversation, and I feel like you just said, Margo, we could talk about this for a very, very long time, and maybe we will again in the future as your lives change and your projects grow and you produce and Steve writes and this TV show gets off the ground. But now, as we close, I want to share a powerful moment that captures the impact of this story. Following a medical conference in Washington, D.C., a group of doctors and nurses gathered at the Lincoln Memorial, moved by the tragedy of what had happened to Judy Burrows and a determination to never let it happen again. In honor of Judy, they started a movement that has now spread across hospitals nationwide. They call it the Burrows Pledge, a commitment to patient safety and to remember the lives lost to preventable medical errors. It's a reminder to all of us that medicine is as much about compassion and truth and vigilance as it is about science. So let's all keep Judy's story in our hearts and minds. In every single patient interaction, let's strive to make a difference, to be sure no more mothers, fathers, or children are lost to mistakes that could have been prevented. So stay with us for just a couple more minutes and listen. Let's keep this conversation going for Steve's mom, for our own mom, and for every single patient who deserves the very best.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm Dave. I stand with Judy.
I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy. I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I tell healthcare stories and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. I'm a medical student and I stand with Judy. I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I too am a nurse and I stand with Judy. I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I'm a surgical resident and I stand by Judy.
I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I'm a medical resident and I stand with Judy.
I am a medical resident and I stand with Judy.
I'm a doctor and I stand with Judy.
I'm a medical student and I stand with Judy.
I'm a medical student. I stand with Judy. I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm also a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a medical student and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. I'm a radiologist and I stand with Judy. I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a pediatrician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy. I'm a medical student and I stand with Judy. I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm Jack. I'm a patient advocate. I stand with Judy, and these are all my bumblebees.
I'm Teresa, Jack's wife. I'm an advocate and a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a nurse and I stand for Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand by Judy.
I'm a physician. I stand with Judy. I'm a medical student and I stand with Judy.
I'm a medical student and I stand with Judy. I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. I'm a medical student and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand by Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy.
I'm a resident physician and I stand with Judy.
I am a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I'm a nurse and I love you and you will be great. I know you will. Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm a nurse and I stand with Judy.
I'm a pharmacist. I stand with Judy.
I'm a lawyer and a patient safety advocate and I stand with Judy.
I'm a physician and I stand with Judy. That's it. He's not part of the comic.
Not part of us.
Say hello.
But now we're here.